I now call on Councillor Coggins to respond on behalf of the Green Party, please.
Thank you, Chair. I want to start by giving you the words of Joe Biden, the former US Vice President, who said, "Don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget and I'll tell you what you value." Now, I've tried to take his advice in interpreting this year's budget. And I wanted to start by, as the others have done, thanking Nicky Bishop and Graham Bentley and Councillor Ross and all who have been involved in very hard work on preparing the budget this year. We in the Green Party are pleased to support many of the changes in this year's budget. In particular, we support the council tax increase, the investment in children's services, the expert input on our carbon reduction plan and the use of the Mayor's Challenge Fund for walking and cycling. I want to consider those, and I also want to bring to your attention some of the concerns that we have about this year's budget. But I wanted to start, as Councillor Newgosh has done, by acknowledging how difficult it is to set a balanced budget in the times we're in. This year's extremely late one-year settlement from national government, alongside ongoing delays in the fair funding and business rates reviews, gives us unprecedented uncertainty about our financial situation. So if we are to apply Biden's rule to the national government, I can only conclude that they don't value local government, that they don't understand the needs of residents, that they don't appreciate the hard work that our tireless officers do, and that they don't plan ahead in a mature and responsible way for the challenges of the future. In this context, the Green Party are supporting our council tax increase, without which we would be facing an even more dire situation. We also welcome the very much needed increase in our children's services. Sadly, if these measures had been taken by the previous administration, we might not be in the situation we are in now, and the harsh cuts that the last decade has seen to preventative services across the country have left families struggling when they needed it most. There are many other things we welcome. When I talk to residents, among the top issues that come up are parking, traffic congestion, potholes and air pollution. And we know that we're struggling as a nation with health problems, many of which could be avoided or reduced if we had more active lifestyles. And so we very much welcome the Mayor's Challenge funding being used to make our area safer and more pleasant for walking and cycling. The importance of being able to walk safely around your neighbourhood is so undervalued and overlooked for many, many years. I've spoken to a number of people who have disabilities that affect their mobility, and they repeatedly tell me that the poor surfaces on our pavements are an extra obstacle in their way. It can be difficult just to leave the house or go to the local shops due to the poor surfaces. So I know this is a small amount and will have a limited impact, but I hope it is the start of making life easier for those who find getting about harder. And we particularly welcome the £39,000 going to Anthesis to investigate reducing our carbon footprint, an outcome of the climate emergency that the Green and Liberal Democrat group brought over a year ago. So if we apply Biden's rule at this stage, I think we see a council that values our young people and our future, a council that's starting to think about how we can improve our lives while tackling the climate emergency. However, there are also areas that we have concerns over. I wanted to look in particular at the Council's recent investment in the Hut Group's new buildings and the car park at the airport. This investment increases the centrality and importance of the airport in our city. It's hardly surprising, since the latest version of Labour's spatial framework is calling for a doubling of airport use over the next 20 years. And the project also involves building a very large new car park, despite ample evidence from around the world that increasing car parking induces demand and only leads to more cars on the road. So we need to be really clear that this sort of decision is incompatible with our principles of climate justice. We know that 70% of flights are taken by only 15% of the population, and in contributing to the growth of the airport, our money is propping up the lifestyles of the wealthy at the expense of some of the most vulnerable people on our planet. So we must remember that climate justice is social justice. We also welcome the review of the investment strategy, which does hint at taking up some of these issues. However, there was no review needed. Each of these decisions is an individual political choice. This decision could have been avoided had we not wanted to do it. And another key political choice in here in this budget is the continued commitment to the Carrington Relief Road, another project likely to induce increased traffic, parking problems and air pollution. Now, I know the times are challenging, and I know that things are changing slowly, but that is exactly the problem. We don't have time for incremental change when it comes to the climate crisis. What we are lacking in this budget and in this Council's plans is any sense of urgency. 15 months on from declaring a climate emergency, we still don't have the report that Anthesis is preparing, recommending our plan for carbon reduction. And crucially, whatever that report recommends, there is no money in this budget to spend on those recommendations. No money at all. So we will have a report giving us recommendations, but we have set aside no money to follow out the recommendations. Now, I understand that money is tight, but this budget simply doesn't show the leadership or innovation that we need at this crucial time. Councils across the country are taking action, and a lot of this action has no cost or little cost. There are working place car levies and things that can actually generate income. There are working with car sharing organisations, or indeed implementing the many recommendations of our Climate Change Task and Finish group, recommendations which came out about 5 months ago and which have not been implemented. Moving to renewable energy, putting information on the Council's website, not hard, not expensive, but not taken seriously enough. We also, the Climate Change Task and Finish group recommended having an executive or lead member specialising on the climate crisis. Now, we recognise and applaud the excellent work done by the current executive member for the environment, air quality and climate change, but that portfolio is too big. It includes roads, bin collections and more. So we really need one role that simply focuses on the defining issue of our times. And I don't mean the bin reorganisation. It's also nearly 5 months since that group recommended tackling the climate emergency become an 8th priority in the Council's corporate plan. I had hoped that that might come to the Budget Council, but it hasn't happened. As it is, it remains buried deep, bizarrely, in the same category as investment in airport and road building, all of which comes in the budget documents with a reassuring leaf symbol and the words green and connected. Now, this plan for increased airport use and new road building is not green enough, but it is connected more so than we would wish to those on the receiving end of the climate crisis. Now, it's 15 months since I stood up in this chamber and I quoted the UN Secretary-General, who said, "If we do not change course by 2020, we will risk missing the point where we can avoid runaway climate change." Those were 15 crucial months in which far too little has been done. This budget is a plan for another 12 months of inadequate climate action. So if we apply Biden's test at this point to the climate implications of this budget, the news is grim. We see a Council that hasn't accepted the scale of the crisis we're facing. We see a Council experiencing cognitive dissonance between our aspirations to fly more and fund new roads and car parks and our hopes to reduce carbon emissions. I can see that things have improved since last year, but we are still failing. We are failing better, failing less spectacularly. This is well-intentioned failing. But the laws of physics don't take intentions into account, and that's why the Green Party will be voting against today's budget. Thank you.